I had just as much fun dubbing cassettes and spray painting artwork. And, I have as much fun doing that stuff that I do, making digital products. It's all just like
Right.
making stuff for people.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Jesse Nyberg Podcast. Today I'm here with designer Frank Bach, who works at Headspace as a product designer. Super excited to chat with him. How are you doing?
Doing good. Friday, no meetings today. Pretty laid back and happy to see you today. Thanks for setting this up.
Yeah, so do you work from home on Friday usually?
I work from home pretty much every day.
Okay.
We have an office in Santa Monica. I live in LA, but we don't really use the office for more than, I don't know, I guess like project kickoffs or like a chance to get the team together.
Mm-hmm.
I would say with COVID, the team is pretty distributed. So we're, nobody's forcing anybody to go in, but I always say it's like the best co-working space in town whenever I feel like going there.
Has it, did that change like drastically through COVID, or did it always kind of have that feeling of like you can work from home if you want to?
That changed with COVID. Yeah, it was definitely more of an exception if you really couldn't make it in or whatever. But yeah, lots of time spent in traffic heading down to Santa Monica.
Yeah, I bet. It's funny, like especially people that don't live out here, like one part of LA to another is like farther than going to like a whole nother county sometimes. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. You look at it on the map and you see the actual distance and you're like that. Like if I hopped on my bike, I could probably make it in the same amount of time. Just too lazy to break a sweat.
Yeah, for real. Especially on that west side, because like there's way less freeways and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what have you kind of been doing at work this week? What have you been working on?
We're working on couple initiatives. Some of them are based on, I guess, more on the growth side of things, like membership kind of stuff, like things like family plans, subscription, like bundling and stuff like that. And then always like kind of core product optimizations and, try to balance it with a few sort of, what do you say, like smaller, like big impact adjustments, but also, also stuff that, hopefully moves the needle and gets the Headspace app, in a better place so people can find the relief they're looking for, help them sleep, whatnot.
Yeah. What is that? Does that look like, kind of what you've been doing? Is that a normal week for you there? Is that what kind of stuff you're usually doing?
Yeah, I would say with my role being a lead product designer, it's kind of a balance of both like the core app and then also the top of funnel kind of stuff. How do you get people in it, and then how do people discover it, and then how do they use it? How do they continue to build that practice and hopefully start a meditation practice.
Yeah. Do you find that working there in terms of like from the UI or UX like design standpoint is pretty different from other companies or apps, because the app is almost like contradictory to like the practice itself of like meditation and stuff?
It's so interesting you say that, because I think when I joined, which was 6 years ago, that felt very clear to me. And it probably, since I'm so close to the product now, it's kind of like I have to remind myself about that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it is probably the biggest challenge of all, is like balancing like a solid kind of cash in, cash out business and, kind of like not going for the, there's all types of like growth hacks and ways that you could do this, kind of in a bad way that you see a lot of other apps out there and services doing. And, it's not about like opening up the Headspace app 6 times a day. It's about like, once a day, a few times a week, like consistent usage. And, if people are able to do that, then, I think they're building a good new habit. And that's kind of the way I see it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I almost like I've used it before. I remember when you guys, it might still be the case if I'm not mistaken, but when you offered like the LA free, like thing with COVID. That was, I thought, like a smart campaign. And I actually started using it then. And the way I looked at the app was almost like, it's so good that you're almost killing like your own target audience. Cause I started using it and then I was like, I don't even know if I need the app. I'm going to try it like just on my own.
There's definitely a theme of kind of like graduating from it in a sense. And then you also get like so many different types of uses for it. Like there's people who use the app to fall asleep. There's people who want, they kind of want like that daily wisdom. There's some people who want to learn how to meditate. Some people just want to like relax or de-stress. And yeah, definitely what you mentioned is that's a theme I've heard for sure. And probably, and myself as well, I'm so close to it because I'm working on it every day, but I do wonder sometimes if I wasn't using it, like using it to learn and to try to improve it, what other methods might I use? But definitely we hear a lot from like people, even who work at the company, who are like going to retreats, like 10-day silent retreats and stuff like that. When you're at that level, like you're probably good without the phone, you don't need the app anymore.
Do you, what was your kind of relationship with that world of like, meditation and mindfulness and stuff before you started working there and you were just a designer for other things?
Yeah. I would say like everyone that I meet who works or has worked at Headspace tends to like get there, not like for a reason, but there's usually something that's guided them to be like, I really want to work there. Like that seems to be the place for me at this point in my life. And, I was working on Red Bull TV for a while, cool product, extreme sports kind of Netflix version for you or like, and it was, I can appreciate that. I grew up skateboarding, snowboarding, and I really enjoyed that kind of like crazy, like media, like everything's moving all the time kind of platform. And I learned so much about like product design and design systems and working across, mobile and web and whatnot and TV as well. And that, I would say I knew that was going to come to an end at some point. Like it was a great platform, but it did kind of keep me up at night thinking about like for sure it's inspirational, but at the end of the day, the energy drink is the moneymaker, and anything that Red Bull does is supporting that. And I'm not an energy drink guy. I'm I don't drink soda. I hardly eat sugary things. It just wasn't, maybe on the odd road trip when you really need to like make it for like the next couple hours to get home or something, I might go for an
it's like a guilty thing kind of almost.
And I grew up in Canada and I moved to LA about 8 years ago, and it was for that Red Bull job. And I was very much in I don't know, but I guess like a career, like it felt like I kind of peaked in the like branding and marketing world that I was working in. I was running my own agency, had a team of, I don't know, about like 8 people. So like on paper, you would say that's like a success. Like that's something people like doing. And there was something about the world of like the app and product space that still like really interested me. And I didn't really know how to get into it. Like, I was designing websites and campaigns and, landing pages and stuff, but never like a level deeper, never really getting into like user insights and really reading into the data and like, kind of building in that way. And I would say, like using the Headspace app and actually building up a bit of a meditation practice at that time was really helpful in like this kind of career change moment. And figuring out what do I really want out of the next like few years of my life. And also dealing, I don't know, like if you felt this, but dealing with the, like moving away from family, moving away from friends. I know now everyone's like kind of remote, and Zoom and things have become a lot bigger part of our lives. Even like 8 years ago, we didn't really do things like this.
Right.
So it felt very far. It felt like, I was leaving a lot behind kind of thing. Like I was like a pioneer heading west, and, I definitely would say that the meditation practice was helpful in getting me like comfortable with that and getting the kind of courage to make it happen, because it was definitely challenging.
Right. And even you were kind of like almost, I would say like 8 years ago. I mean, the way that people look at, product design or UI design and stuff now, I feel like that is almost like you were in the kind of pioneer. Like we were always, there was web design and there was apps, but I feel like it didn't really boom until that like time where like when I graduated, like 3 years ago, it felt like everything was like, you got to get into like UI, like it's the future, like you won't make any money otherwise. And I was like, damn, like maybe. And for a while I was like, maybe I want to do that, but it's funny that you worked at Red Bull, because and like what they're kind of about, not in a negative way necessarily, but it's almost the exact opposite, like kind of vibe of Headspace.
I worked with a guy at Red Bull who he went on to join Financial Times in London, and we kind of laughed about that as well. We're like, that's really funny. Like, you got so much of the high octane like energy drink that you were like, I want like some, I want like editorial.
Right.
And but so I always kind of admired that, and I was like, that would be, I like this kind of balance of like learn a lot about this space and then go to the complete opposite, and ends up there's often a lot of similarities. A lot of the goals are kind of the same, and it just takes like it's different audience, different customer base, different approaches. But
what was like I guess I know you said you felt like you kind of reached a point in like the more graphic design world and branding world that you thought was maybe like your cap. Other than that, maybe like innate feeling, what got you interested in wanting to like pursue that? Because other people may have done like a different twist or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing less designing, and I was definitely like in that kind of more account management like role. I think just being the founder of the thing, and I was really afraid to like let go of that part. Like I wanted to be the account manager, creative director, designer, and I had a lot of trouble leaning on the team to support. And also like the nature of the projects at the time were very like regional, living in Northern Ontario, Canada. We had some great clients, but definitely the budgets were not like California design budgets, they were like much smaller. So I got used to a pace where we were doing not like 4 or 5 projects a year, but like 100 projects a year, like websites. And then like you might knock out a business card and a letterhead in the afternoon. And then, you'd do a logo over the next few days, and just be like, the pace was really crazy. And
more like an individual kind of operates.
Yeah. And the part I loved the most, I loved web design. I really enjoyed it. Like I remember the iPhone coming out. I remember being really excited about the responsive web, and our company at the time was we were the first probably in our part of the world to actually design a responsive website. And I remember being really proud of it. Like it works. It works on mobile. Like it looks great. Yeah. We didn't know how to like what that process looked like, but we somehow managed to make it happen. And some of the clients we had were like the local art gallery, the local science center, some government jobs as well, and also like local tourism and stuff. So a lot of like like a pretty wide array of clients, and some really interesting stuff. Like we did, one of my favorite projects was a marketing campaign for an exhibit at the Science Center for a King Tut tomb. So it was like this whole like mummy theme, kind of ancient Egyptian.
That's cool.
And we did everything from like bus wraps to radio ads, TV spots, like just doing so much full like marketing campaigns. And I think it just burnt me out. It was like there was no focus, and just the idea of like I could work on like one thing on a phone that's mobile and really get good at it. That was attractive to me. And it's funny you say that about you coming out of school and UI being like the thing, because I felt like the door was closing, because I was getting close to my 30s. And, you know, there were not really a lot of school programs, and there wasn't really like the General Assembly and that kind of thing that you have today. And I really thought I thought I was like, you know, like when you close the garage door and you try to slide underneath it, you know, you ever done that? I felt like that was my entry into the world of product. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. The door's closing. I got to get in. I'm in, you know, I got in. And, of course it's a whole different ball game, but I'm really glad I have that kind of brand background, because, I often, especially working with people in user experience design who are maybe a little heavier on like the user interviews and wireframing side of things. Like I can come in with that brand and like big picture kind of marketing expertise. And good. I think it makes me different. It makes me unique on my team.
Yeah, that's one thing I've always noticed that's interesting about that world is it feels like, you know, going to school for graphic design or communication design, like something, whatever, more broad, it feels like everyone's kind of like, I just want to do design or like art, but I don't know exactly what like niche I want to be in. And then they kind of hopefully figure it out. And then that other world, it's like so specialized where someone's like never thought about design ever. And then all of a sudden they're like, I'm going to go take this like 16-month thing and all of a sudden like be all about like research and like psychology. And it's such a different space. It almost feels like we're similar in like sentiment, and like I think we like have the same vibes and whatnot, but I almost feel like some of those people, when I talk to them, it seems like we have a completely different career or whatever.
100%. Yeah, you're still making something for like an end consumer, but the approach and the like methods are pretty different. I love when they both come together, and I would say like probably Headspace is a great example of it, where it's like a very strong brand, beloved brand, and a like hopefully a fun, enjoyable like product to use that gets people what they're looking to get out of it. But yeah, it's definitely intimidating. Like coming from I came from a graphic design program at a tiny college in Canada, and then I get to the US and I'm working with people who like come from Stanford or like these like hardcore like human computer interaction graduates. And I'm just like, I'm like dumb. Like, I don't know what I'm doing at all. Like I feel like I'm in a room with geniuses all the time, and it's definitely taken some adjustment, but then I think they also appreciate my candor and like straightforwardness. It's like, are we gonna talk about this thing for like 6 weeks, or are we gonna do something like let me, I'll you guys talk, I'll like build the prototype, and then all of a sudden we have like some direction, you know, because I think definitely the more kind of academic, I would say like even more than designer or like, in any kind of way, I'm probably just like I would say like a builder, I guess. I like making stuff. I liked making music. You know, I played in a bunch of hardcore bands when I was younger. I liked making zines. I liked making posters, and of course, like super love the YouTube clips that you're making. Thank you. Especially the new one, putting that poster all around LA. I thought that was so cool, and like just such a fun way to teach people your techniques and the more analog stuff. You know, like I had just as much fun dubbing cassettes and spray painting artwork, and you know, I have as much fun doing that stuff that I do you know, making digital products. It's all just like making stuff for people.
I think this may be like an assumption or whatever, but like compared to a lot of the people I've met in that world, you seem to that background and that other almost life you lived, I think is very valuable and like makes you have a lot more maybe insight or like compassion into like different markets and different like types of people. Whereas like you said, a lot of these people, maybe they grew up like in a different way, or like they went to these Ivy League schools. Like they're a lot more in the like weeds. And I think your history can give you a lot more like leveled approach to, you know, the world of that. I think
so. Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I didn't come out of school making six figures. You know, I had to really work my ass off to get there. And it is wild to see the like younger people these days, like internships at Meta, internships at Google, like straight out of school. Just like it's mind blowing to see that stuff, and like the expectation that, mind you, like life's a lot more expensive nowadays, but just like my mind was not even there. I was just focused on like designing stuff and serving clients and kind of like improving at my craft. But yeah, I'm definitely envious. Kind of, not that I would do it differently, but I think I'm like, damn, but probably somebody would say the same thing about me. Somebody who was born earlier, but you know what I'm saying?
That world is interesting too, because like even people I know that work on like such impressive, graphic design stuff, whether it be like album art or branding for like big companies. Like I know some of them that are still like, I'm just happy that I make enough money to like not be dead and I get to like make art. Whereas like that other world almost feels like they know they're getting into like this tech world that's going to pay well. And it's kind of like, I wouldn't expect anything less. Like I want to be at these Silicon Valley companies or whatever. Whereas the other world's almost like, holy shit, like I can't believe I'm working with Facebook or whatever it may be.
Yep. No, I feel that. I think it definitely coming from that world, and even being through my college years, like doing music and barely filling up the gas tank in the van and doing 30 shows in 30 days, and eating like punk stews every day at some new person's house. Like it definitely teaches you, it was fun as hell. Like I loved it, but it teaches you resourcefulness, resilience, like the whole DIY approach to punk, and like that you can make something valuable. You can tomorrow pick up your guitar, plug it into your computer, get a little microphone, much like you're doing with your podcast and the other things you do. Like you made something out of nothing, and now it has some kind of value, and people want to pay attention to it. People might purchase it. I just always loved that stuff, like from nothing to something. And there's so many more similarities from like even that punk world and the DIY world to like what we're doing in design and in tech. And there's a book, I said like nothing to something. There's a book called 0 to 1. It's kind of like, that's a tech kind of product-y book, but in essence, it's kind of the same thing. How do you take something from 0 to 1?
Yeah.
And like, I love that moment.
Right. Do you find that, you mentioned something about like, you feel that the other people at the company sometimes you're kind of the one that's like, all right, well, I'm going to go build this shit or like get this stuff done from like the design side rather than the research and like the psychology experience side. And you said that when you had that other job that sometimes you felt it hard to delegate or maybe like give up responsibilities. Since it's a long question. Since the app design is more like systematic, do you find it easier to delegate and like manage a team?
For sure. Yeah. I've gotten more comfortable with it, and probably because like Headspace is near and dear to me, but it's not my baby. It's not like I'm not a co-founder of it. I'm not, I showed up to work one day and that was my responsibility.
Right.
And I guess just more exposure to seeing how other people do it. And, when I talk about delegating in the past, that was living on, a company that had a month's runway just on a regular basis. So like if I delegate and somebody fumbles it, that means we're not getting paid this month, and like now it's going to get hard on me. Are there ways around that? For sure. Like I could have been a lot smarter about how I set things up back then, but I was like straight out of school and just kind of barely figuring it out. Whereas most people kind of like start in companies and then they graduate to eventually founding their own thing. I kind of did it backwards. And, but yeah, that wasn't a long question. It's a good one. I would say, delegation's easier. And it's not to say like, I don't mean the whole like researching thing to seem like it's a shot at research or anything. It's super valuable. Always is, always has been. But I think somebody like me just has a bias to action, to building, to making something. And I tend to I lose my patience a little bit when we're just like too much in the planning stages. And I think it's a bit of a superpower because you can quickly mock something up. And now, it's like a picture is 1,000 words, like a prototype is 1,000 meetings, like here's the thing, look at it. Something we do on the product design team a lot is we'll design what is called like a provocation. And it's kind of like just two or three screens, and they don't need to have everything figured out, but it's kind of like, what do you think of this? What do you think of this?
Yeah,
what do you think of this?
Mock-up type thing.
Yeah. And we'll sometimes take take a Spotify interface, take an Apple Health interface, take a TikTok interface, and just kind of jam in our stuff just to get a reaction a little bit. And I think it's a great way to lead by design and give product and engineering something to look at and talk about. And it's just like a fun, cool exercise, I think, and exploration.
Right. Do you think that, it's funny hearing you say that too, because I feel like other companies do that and they actually just send that out. I'm like, why are you trying to be this app? I may or may not be talking about Instagram, but what?
They're hitting metrics, and
for real,
they're pretty shameless about it, but it is what it is.
What would you say then, I guess, on a positive side, is, your most maybe proud or exciting accomplishment that you've done at that specific position?
I would say when Headspace hit 1 million paying subscribers, that was a few years back. And it was a big moment for the company. I was the lead on all growth initiatives at the time. And definitely it was a huge team effort over many years, but it felt so good to be right there, right in the thick of it, on that growth team, and literally seeing the dashboard where it went from 99999, and it just ticked over finally to 1 million.
That's cool.
That was a few years back, but I'll never forget that one. That was a huge milestone moment for my career. It's definitely put that one on the LinkedIn.
Yeah. It's funny, that you mentioned LinkedIn, because sometimes I use it, and I definitely used it more when I was working and or trying to work at a position. And it's so funny going on there sometimes, and it's just like any other social media app where there's these weird almost trends or viral things you can do on there. And it's always it's always some guy that hires people, and he's I met this kid. He was so sopping wet in the rain, but I still gave him an interview, and now he's our CEO or something. And I'm what the fuck is this?
Some people know how to game the algorithm, so they'll break a story up into chunks of paragraphs.
Yeah.
And so it sounds so dramatic, they're writing a movie script. And what you said, I don't know if it's the right term, but I call it poverty porn. Where it's just it's this story from the ashes rose this person who was begging for a job on the corner, and I took a chance on,
and they're and I did it. I helped them,
I did it. Yeah. It has 600,000 likes.
Yeah. And then it's it's the LinkedIn version of doing a TikTok dance, or whatever it may be.
Right.
Just, that shit's funny. Do you think that do you ever feel out of place coming from this more maybe punk background in this corporate world, or do you feel you've acclimated at this point to that?
It's tough to say. I guess it's a little bit of both. Sometimes I feel, I've been doing music stuff again lately, and my approach to music has also changed based on, what I know about how to start successful projects. It's hard for me to see even art, not through that business lens of what are the goals? What's the setting up a mood board, setting up some steps and how we're going to get there. which I think is a plus for somebody like me. But yeah, I might feel a little bit on both sides as well, like a little too punk for business, too business for punk kind of thing.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
always felt like a point of friction for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like back in the day, I remember paying a lot of attention to different bands and how many plays they had on MySpace. You know, or like today you would look at the Spotify play count. And you know, in the tech world, we just call that data driven, like decision making, or like a data point. But I remember my bandmates like always making fun of me for it. Like they're like, dude, like that doesn't matter. I was like, I don't know. I think it kind of matters. Yeah, I think it's important. But, yeah. I'm a nerd. I guess I'm a big nerd, self-identified.
Right. I felt that way too in lots of different, you know, things I'm into, even from like design. And I feel like design and art is a lot more like ambiguous these days, where like, and artists are being hired to do design and vice versa. It's all kind of blurred. And sometimes I feel like with the art people, I'm like, they're like, nah, man, like just create, like, don't worry about any of that. And I feel a little too like in the weeds. And then with the design people, they're like, you're getting too crazy. We got to reel this in. Like, so you're in this weird gray area.
Man. Yep. No, I feel that. And one of the other like projects, I guess, outside of Headspace that I'm most proud of is Sunshine Shop, which is, I've got my hat here. And that has been like a huge, like just labor of love, I guess, that started off a little bit ambiguous, like not quite sure what direction that's going to go in. And after making some merch, kind of getting back to the graphic design, like kind of band days, because I always like that sort of merch table kind of vibe. And I do a lot of speaking engagements in the tech world, and I try to bring that, like, you know, I guess what you would bring to the stage in a musical sense. Like I try to bring that, I guess, like my new way of doing that. And
opening up pits out of a TED Talk.
Open the pit. Want to see a circle pit? Yeah. Stage dives. And that whole merch in the back kind of thing. I always kind of missed it. So I was like, what if I could start like a little online merch table in a sense, to just like make stuff that I think is cool. And it went about a year of just putting out my own stuff. And eventually my wife was like, that's kind of cool what you got going on. And like, she kind of went hard at it for like a few weeks, a couple months, and made a whole bunch of other merch. And we were just kind of like throwing like shots in the dark to see like, what's going to stick. And eventually this, like, you know, we tried things, like we had a booth at USC, and that was like a cool looking booth, but like a huge failure in terms of like sales. and like we met some really great people, of course, but it was a lot of work, and it was like a full on day event of doing it. So then we didn't let it discourage us. We just were like, okay, like we're going to do less of that and more of this. So kind of using that product mindset to figure out what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. And then we worked with a couple influencers just to like, hey, can we send you some merch, and kind of hope cross our fingers that they would post about it in their stories or something. And one of them did. And I swear we did more sales in a weekend than we did in the whole year, just from like one post.
Is that one of these people that are tagged in like the description of the page?
Yeah,
like
it would be Gabby Abreu. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so working with her, she was also doing some of her own merch, and the idea kind of came up like, hey, I guess like, could we support you with your merch, and kind of like set you up with a bit of a recurring revenue, where you just kind of like post once in a while instead of us like paying you to post our merch. Is there something more organic where you could actually monetize your own stuff? And that just took off. Like that was clearly where the heat kind of was. Like that, talk about product market fit. That was it. Like that's the feeling.
Yeah, you could tell by that. Yeah. That's perfect. Like that. I found out about that. Sai Swoon, right? That one you're talking about?
Yeah.
I found out about her recently on this podcast, like the Make Art Not Content. It's like this guy Bronx that does this podcast, and he had her like, I don't know what you want to call it, do like a takeover or whatever, where she did like her own episode. And I was like, holy shit, she has like this spirituality, like cult following online. Her Patreon and all this shit is insane.
Oh, she's got a whole system there. And I was like, yeah, we could like help you with like one slice of this, just be the merch shop for you. And I mean, since it's been a few years, but has become a great friend of the family. And, you know, she got our kid like some gifts when she was born and things like that.
That's
so
cool.
It's just been cool. These like relationships with people. I mean, like outside of tech, you could say, like that's been very refreshing. Like you mentioned working with artists, and I've had to kind of like adapt a little bit because, you know, the world of tech, like everyone wants things yesterday, but working with artists, it's very normal for them to take like up to a year to launch a project.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I'm like, let's go. Like, let's launch it. Like, doesn't have to be perfect. We can iterate, we can tweak it, but artists are typically like, they want to like get it perfect. And I don't blame them. It's been an interesting balance. And I've had to sometimes learn to like not push too hard and just kind of give people space to, you know, just think about it or ideate or, you know, respond, like take weeks to respond to my email and stuff like that. But yeah, that was the model that ended up kind of working, and thankfully we enjoy it. And I like working on that stuff with artists. It's refreshing. So it's kind of like leveraging their audiences a bit and kind of building this almost like super audience of, you know, so now there's got to be a good like dozen creators and artists on there that we've kind of helped build little merch collections for, and, you know, posters and prints, and have aspirations of getting into things like music. Like I could almost see it having a little musical kind of arm to it. And ebooks kind of really took off as well, which was a surprise to me. Like I never thought we'd have a store with ebooks in it. And we just posted a new product. There's the first physical book. It's a book called Care Manual.
Yeah, I was looking at that right now.
Yeah, that was a collab with Flower Press. And I don't know, I guess I'm talking about it a bunch, but I'm just super proud of it. Like it feels like this really interesting and cool group of people that have come together. Everybody, you know, I always say like my favorite part is every couple months sending the checks out to everybody, you know, like just seeing that both sides are highly incentivized to make this a thing. It's not just like a one-off situation. And I at the same time, like there are no, you know, I have a little bit of a roadmap, but I don't have like crazy goals because it's still very much a side project. And you know, I figure it's one of those things I've learned that as soon as it starts to get a bit too serious is when you start to kind of not like it anymore. So I'm careful to like just let it be the side project. And if it's becoming too much or I don't have time, it's totally okay. I just put it on pause and just kind of pick it up again when I'm ready.
Right. That's the best part about, you know, I'm sure what you do and your position gives you more than enough money to like handle everything you got to do. So like it takes it's hard to follow like a passion and, do things your way when you're relying on like the money from that project or that source of income, because it becomes more of like a business or whatever. And I find myself in those dilemmas because everything I do, even if I started out as like it doesn't matter, I can't help but like try to make it this craziest thing as possible, you know?
I know. Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's for sure like a privilege and a luxury. And like, of course it has like any money we're making on the shop is kind of like a bonus. Right. It'll, you know, I guess if it like helps pay for our kids' preschool or something, that would be amazing. And for sure we've done some renovations around the house and stuff like that. And like, been able to do these things a little quicker than normally. So it has given us a bit of like freedom, but yeah, I definitely don't want to it's okay for it to just be like a chill business, a chill project.
Right. What's it called? One thing I wanted to ask you about, this is a different kind of topic, but How is it? Because I was looking at your website and I don't know a lot of people that do this because I think this is a lot more catered to like the space you're in, but like speaking at conferences and like tech, either design or tech or whatever, how is that experience? And like, do you enjoy doing that? And I guess also, how did you even get into that in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, if I look back on my agency days, like I was often in front of clients, pitching in front of clients, presenting work, something you don't really get to do that much when you're working in-house. And I also taught in college. I taught for a few years in a graphic design program in my hometown. And I kind of liked that. I felt like me and the students always had a really good rapport, and we always we got along really well. And I felt like I was pretty good at like connecting with them and teaching them stuff. And the parts of teaching that I didn't like were like the grading and the, exams and that kind of stuff. So when I saw that like the opportunity in the tech world to maybe try out a conference or, do a little podcast such as this one, have a conversation with somebody, that was interesting to me. It felt like a natural extension of, if I keep going back to the, the punk rock days, like on the stage and the audience, and there's a good energy, even when you're like so nervous and anxious leading up to it. Once it's done, it's like this huge exhalation, and you're, people, like one of the number one fears people have is public speaking. And, it gets a bit easier, but you still get the sweats for sure before you get up there. And then, I guess just always trying to challenge myself and kind of level up. Like I would say Headspace as a job is kind of like the foundation of my career. And then I found a few interesting little other places to kind of dip into, and I'm trying my best to make them all connect in a sense. And I hope on the outside, it looks like it makes sense. Like how
I think it does.
How this whole, like, I call it the like Frank ecosystem. How it's all, it's hopefully, and if it's not connected, I'm trying to connect it better. But the speaking thing, got into it just as like a bit of a challenge to myself, and people really like Headspace. I think if I worked at like, I don't know, fintech or something, like people probably wouldn't be asking to hear about it. And it's like a fun thing to bring. Like, I always say it's not about me. It's the Headspace thing. People love the brand. And the tech world, like health and mental health, has become a big topic in that space. And there's usually like, you kind of have like your Web3 room, or like your, you've got like a room that's all about research. And sometimes there's like a health like track, and that's usually where it fits in really nicely. And I always say like the imposter syndrome thing is real, but no one else has lived your experience. So just get comfortable telling that story. Like you yourself, you could speak probably for an hour about like your process and analog and how you made that poster and put it around town and the interesting conversations that came from it. Like something that you're passionate about that you did, and all the details around. It's not that hard to kind of speak at length, at least for me, about stuff like that. And so I just took that as an opportunity, and I've got a few topics that I typically kind of like recycle, I guess. And then I think not the last config, but the year before, Figma config. I don't know how many attendees, but I think it might be the biggest conference in the world. And
was it in person or online?
No, it was all remote. They're all remote. So it was like 1 second you're like speaking to like 20,000 people, and then you log off. You're just sitting there in your kitchen. Like, whoa, that was weird. But, so that's been cool. And then been getting more into the workshops. That was kind of a COVID thing, where I had never done a workshop before, which is a much more like hands-on, like working with a group of people. The one that I typically do is helping people get from senior to a lead position, and kind of teaching my, I guess, what I've learned along the way.
And some like actionable advice or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I try not to be too like, too heady or too like philosophical or too academic. Like I think there's a lot of that going on, and I think people find it refreshing to hear from someone who just kind of like speaking from the heart, like speaking their experience. And I definitely don't pretend to have all the answers. Sometimes we work through it together where I'll be like, hey, does anyone else in the group have like a better answer for that? Like try to get other people talking a bit, because I'm just kind of like the vessel that is trying to get people to learn something new.
Yeah, it seems cool. I always felt like I always kind of that job or whatever you want to call it, that role of being a speaker maybe doesn't fit into like every category. Sure. But I also felt like it's like one of those things where I want to do it, or like I want to be asked to do it. I don't want to like completely pursue it, but I feel like it'd be like a rite of passage for someone to be asked to do it,
Yeah.
But well, I don't know. I always feel like I'm too young. Like that's where my main imposter syndrome comes from, is feeling like I'm not allowed to tell you something if you're older than me type of vibe.
But I get it. But I think it's like, just, that's your experience. Like, it.
Yeah, that's true.
Somebody might disagree, and that's totally fine too. I think there's a maturity in like being comfortable with disagreement, being comfortable with like, not everyone's going to like you, and that's okay. Like not everyone needs to be for you. That's fine. Like that's definitely something I've had to adjust over the years. Like you don't need to be everybody's best friend. Some people just won't vibe with you, and that's fine. It's totally okay. And I would say too, on the speaker side of things, like every conference has a call for speakers. So they have an open window where you can go and actually submit like, a couple paragraph pitch. Like, you don't even need to have it all figured out. You can just like, you could say like, my focus is on craft and I want to teach how to do this, this, and this, or maybe not even teach. Maybe it's just a story. It's just like, maybe it's just a fun,
Maybe I'll try it.
Yeah, you could. I mean, Config does it every year. There's plenty of events, especially now with Zoom conferences being so big. Like you could do it from the comfort of your house. And at the end of the day, people want to learn stuff and they want to be like taught things. But I always say like they actually want to be entertained more than anything. So what can you offer that is entertaining, that is more enjoyable than like watching YouTube over your lunch break, like what can you, or competing with that. So that's kind of the way I see it.
It's a good point. And I always felt like not only like in terms of those conferences, especially in design and tech, I always feel like there's not a lot of diversity, not only in and I'm not meeting any, like, I don't think racial or like those type of diversities. I'm just another white dude with framed glasses, but I do think I would at least meet some, whereas I think you do too, diversity in like background and experience, because that stuff sometimes all feels like that guy could be replaced with that guy and it wouldn't even have like made any difference really. They're talking like, almost like on like a automate, it's like AI, like designer guy or whatever.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And I would say like, you're absolutely right. And like having that self-awareness that you like of your kind of your role in this whole thing. And like, the way I kind of see it is like, can I balance that with some other, like not to totally make you not do it if the opportunity is there, but is there a chance when someone approaches you for these things, like, do you have some people that you could like maybe sort of sponsor in a sense, or like people that are a bit more underrepresented, not as like you're not like doing them a charity or anything, but just like, hey, like, that's cool that you want me here, but there's also like these other people, or like so-and-so on my team, or so-and-so that I used to work with would also be good for this. And
that makes sense.
Just making sure like you're sharing the wealth a little bit like that, I think is important.
Yeah. I found that problem even with, doing the podcast and doing collaborations with people. Like I don't, seek out that stuff, like to meet any like criteria, but I started looking back at like this catalog and I'm like, man, like this is definitely like a deeper problem. Like so many people are white, like design is so very like white, and I'm like, damn. And then I talked to some of my homies that do design that are maybe like black or Mexican or whatever, and they're always saying like it's a lot less, like no one even knows that exists till they get to like 18 or 20. So like you already lose all that like head start of maybe someone else telling you like, or giving you a computer, even small things like that.
Totally. Yeah. Or solid internet connection, or let alone like the tools to like hack a copy of Photoshop, like that's
right.
Yeah. No, that's real. That's very real. And you've seen in the last couple of years, like I think there's the Where Are the Black Designers group. They've been doing a lot of work there. I think that's been helpful for people, but like it highlights this like much bigger problem. And one thing I do really appreciate about tech is if you can break into it, it has proven to be a very good way for you to I guess like really change your financial future, like if you get on if you get on at the right startup and you have some equity, there's a really, like, I don't want to say a good chance, because it's actually not a great chance that you like get rich off of it, but some people do, like some people really do, and it changes their lives. Not to mention just like having a stable job, like one job where you don't have to be like doing multiple jobs. And I think if you really want it and you have a few resources, I think, and hopefully like some mentorship or sponsorship, then I think it's very doable. Like I think you can, especially on the design side, the school systems have not caught up to where the industry is going, my opinion. And I agree. You can still go do all the Figma tutorials. You could do that probably over a few weekends. You can take the Google like interaction design course on Coursera. I'm pretty sure it's still free. You could do that. You could listen to every single Design Details podcast, which is I think the best product design tech podcast out there. That's what I did. I listened to every single one, and one episode every day when I was trying to learn about the world of product.
That's cool.
And all of a sudden, what felt like speaking a foreign language kind of like felt natural. So, of course there's a lot of other resources, and there's tons of like Slack groups and Discords, and like, if you immerse yourself in a few of those ways, I think you could totally change your life in 6 months to a year. You could be, you don't even need to go to General Assembly. You could put together a portfolio, take on a couple pro bono jobs, maybe help a nonprofit with a website or something, try to build an app with a friend. Doesn't even have to be real, just a prototype, and be able to speak to that and hit the pavement and start applying for jobs. Like, not to sound like a boomer, because I think that it's not. I think that's a easy trap to fall into. Because it's not about that. Like, just show up every day, bring coffee and donuts every day. No, the world has changed, but the opportunities are there. Social media is a tool you can harness. I've always gone like extremely hard on social media. Like, Twitter is my favorite website. I actively keep the profiles going, and it's something that everybody can use, as long as you can kind of learn and get comfortable with it and use those tools to your benefit.
It's important, and it always feels like the way I look at it is it's not important at all until it is. Like, one little thing will help you from social, like you spoke about the community things. Like, I owe you, or I guess in a like tertiary sense or whatever, where I was in your Slack thing. Frank has this Slack like community. And the job I worked at before I went freelance, like the guy that hired me was like referred me like from that somehow. Like, he was like, I saw your thing in there, because it's this guy Levi who works at like this company Use All 5. And I know Levi. They did branding for the Art of Sport shit, and then they needed a brand designer at the actual, company. And then that all happened. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I don't even like, cause it's not like I was like grinding on the Slack community, like making myself known. So I was like, that's pretty crazy that happened from me basically doing nothing in there. And like,
you were just chilling on Slack. Yeah. It's all about that, like, the corny saying, but like whatever it is, the, like opportunity is just basically like a little bit of effort and a little bit of timing and just like right place at the right time. And sometimes it just happens, and trying to set yourself up in a way that more of those things can happen. I love that. That's like the perfect story for that Slack group.
Yeah, that's a little ad for your community.
Yeah. LAdesignanddev.com.
I think it's
if you're in LA.
Is it? Yeah. Luck is when opportunity and preparation meet.
That's
or
the
something
one.
like
That's
that.
the one.
Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah.
How was the thing yesterday?
Yeah. I was gonna say we had the meetup last night. It was awesome. Very similar to the first one that we did. This was the 5th. We had to take a huge break during the pandemic. It was the first one back. I like this mix of design and engineering. I think it's like a two groups of people that don't get together enough. And, I was trying to make something casual. People like getting together in person. Yeah. I don't think we need another design conference. I don't think we need more thought leadership in the world right now. I think there's enough out there. And I think like, if anything I've learned from this Slack group is that like networking is big for people, like new graduates, people who are looking for a new job, like all that stuff it's hard to build those networks and to just have these events a few times a year where people get together. And we do balance it. Like they're not always at bars, though those tend to be my favorites. We have had some that are, more like a games night or like something like that. And at the same time, companies like Noun Project or Lingo have come on, and they're a sponsor for all of them.
Saw that. That's cool.
Every single time we do an event, Noun Project makes a $500 donation to a group that we choose together. And this last one was for the Trevor Project, which is a group that supports LGBTQIA community members and mostly younger folks. And we've made some donations to Skid Row organizations and people helping with homelessness. So every quarter we try to kind of find a new cause, and it does feel like really good in the sense that you have this online community that comes together, has a good time, networks, but also gives back to like the real community.
Sure.
And especially living in Los Angeles, I think this is a city of a lot of movement. People come in, they come out, they get here, they take advantage of the situation, make some money, and then they peace out, and go back to their Midwest town or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm really looking to like plant some or make some roots here, and, not just a quick in and out situation. So I think giving back in that way is important. And even if it's just $500 at a time, I think every little bit counts.
Right. Yeah. I was going to go, and then I was like, man, sometimes I'm just like, when I don't have someone to roll up to something with, I'm like, fuck, I'm going to go by myself, and then just be like, designer people, I'm sure developers similar aren't exactly the most like, outroverted people to be like, yo, how you doing? Like, what's up?
Takes a good hour or so for
you
people
need that
to,
beer and shit,
You need it. A little lubrication, social lubricant. And, but yeah, it was cool. It was a good meetup. I think we had probably like about 150, 160 show up.
Oh, nice.
And you can never, we use Eventbrite to kind of track how many people we can expect. And I've kind of learned that stuff, especially for free events. You can kind of count on like 60% maybe if you're lucky. But yeah, people seem to enjoy it, and it's a nice, I enjoy it as well. It's a good kind of excuse to get out, even though I feel similar to you sometimes where I'm looking at the end of the workday, looking at the couch, looks like, I kind of want to
You're
just
the
kick
guy
back
too, so you got to be.
yeah,
like,
I got to show up.
You got to be there and put it on for everyone so they don't feel awkward. That's dope, man.
Totally.
Maybe I'll convince me to hit up the next one. But other than that, I just want to say appreciate you for coming on. It was cool to finally chat and everything and meet you. It's been a while since we known maybe of each other, but it's cool to chat.
Yeah, sure. I love that. Yeah, online friends become real life friends situation.
Yeah.
For the next meetup, let's we'll roll up together.
All right, bet that'll work out. Like no one can say shit if I roll up with the head honcho, If you want to check out more of Frank's stuff, he's got Instagram, Zen Daddy, the Sunshine Shop, Twitter, all that good stuff. And other than that, thank you again, and we'll see you next time, everybody. Peace out.
Thanks, Jesse.